Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing the building blocks of the position paper, what are called the parts of the full argument. To review, for your next assignment, you're writing an argumentative essay proposing some kind of solution to the research question you've been following all semester. Out of the assignments you've done so far, this one is probably most familiar to you from other classes. Using sources, in this case around 12, to shape and support your stance on the topic. We'll talk more about incorporating sources in a future video. Today, we'll be covering how to outline your paper. The position paper should be between 8 and 10 pages, meaning it's also your longest assignment, and that can feel really overwhelming. Fortunately, there's a good way to break down this page count, and that involves the parts of the full argument. There are 6 of these total, and we'll go through them one at a time here. I have posted this sheet to our ELMS module so you can reference it as you're writing at home. The first part is the introduction. You've written a bunch of these already. A good introduction needs to introduce the topic, provide a sense of exigence, which is, remember, the so what, who cares of the argument, pose a specific research question, and then attempt to answer that question in a concise way. That, of course, being your thesis statement. The second part is the narration. This is the background for your argument. This section lays out all the information your audience needs to keep in mind while reading your argument. Probably you haven't written one of these in a paper before, but the example that you're going to read for today's classwork does a nice, if kind of long, job with the narration, so you'll get a sense of what this part of the paper does. The third part is the partition. This is essentially an extended thesis, a roadmap for your essay. You'll expand on the thesis statement that you made in your introduction and give a detailed plan for your argument. It's easy to get lost in a longer paper, and so this section can be helpful for your reader to navigate the essay, but it's also helpful for you when writing it to sort of have this in front of you as a guide. The fourth part is the confirmation. This is probably what you think of when you think argumentative paper. If your thesis is the proposal to your research question, the confirmation paragraphs represent stepping stones toward proving the validity of that proposal. You'll establish the points that add up to that thesis and then use a variety of scholarly and popular sources to back up those points, always making sure that you're thoroughly discussing the implications of the evidence that you draw in. There are going to be a number of these confirmation paragraphs in your essay. Altogether, it'll comprise about 50% of the paper. And that goes for all of the parts of a full argument, right? So it's not a one-to-one correspondence with each part representing one paragraph. You could have multiple introductory paragraphs or multiple narration paragraphs, however many you need. And so that's just something to note here, that you're going to have several confirmation paragraphs in the entire paper. The fifth part is the refutation. This is also known as the counter-argument. So here you're laying out alternatives to your own proposal, showing what other stances are out there, and then showing with your sources and your own logic why these are misguided or incomplete. This helps to build your ethos and further convince your audience of why you're right. You'll want probably 2 good refutation points, maybe more. It really depends on your argument, okay? And then the last part is the conclusion. This is the end of your paper, of course. So conclusions are really tough to write because you don't want to just restate your introduction. Rather, you should take account of the evidence that you've brought in since your thesis statement and make some sort of summative remark. This is a weird analogy, but it's been really helpful for students in the class, and it helps me when I'm writing a longer essay to think of it this way. So if your essay is a staircase and each step is getting you closer to proving your argument, then the conclusion is kind of you standing at the top of the stairs looking over all of the steps, okay? So you can think of that as encapsulating what a conclusion should do. And the conclusion is right here. You're not necessarily bound to this order. So You might find that for your own paper, it makes more sense to have the partition come before the narration instead of after. You can also have a section of dedicated confirmation paragraphs, so maybe you have like 3 confirmation paragraphs in a row, and then you go into your refutation, or you might interweave them, so you have a confirmation paragraph and then a refutation paragraph, and then you go back to confirmation. And sometimes confirmation paragraphs even contain refutation points in them, okay? So it's going to make more sense once you start looking at examples, which brings me to today. For this assignment, I'm asking you to read the sample position paper on ELMS. You can find it here, okay? And here's that sheet with the parts of the full argument for your reference. But you're going to read this example. It's not a perfect paper, but it does a lot of things really well. And one of those things is that it very clearly follows the parts of a full argument. You should read this through carefully and try to identify where each part begins and ends. Then, after you do that, you should go to this discussion board, okay? And you're going to post a brief summary of that paper along with your answers, so your breakdown of the different parts of the argument to the discussion board, okay? You're not going to be able to see other students' responses until you post your own, so don't worry if you don't see anything when you go to submit your own response. And you should get this done by midnight tonight. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions. I do think that the parts of the full argument is a really helpful framework for thinking about how to structure your position paper. This makes it a lot more manageable. Okay, so good luck. I'll talk to you on Friday, and let me know if anything comes up before then. Bye.